I'm Alan Ning. I'm with Zorianna Kit, and today we review The Rental. All right, welcome to the Film Threat Review Show. We've got The Rental on tap here. It's directed by Dave Franco. I don't know if he wrote it or not.
Yeah, he co-wrote it with Joe Sandberg.
Okay. It stars Alison Brie, Dan Stevens, Jeremy Allen White, and Sheila Vand. It's a story of two couples headed off to an oceanside getaway where things don't turn out quite as great as they hope it would, as there's kind of a stalker slash killer slasher. This is a slasher movie, but you actually wouldn't know it until close to the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting. They're set up in an Airbnb. There's already tension between the two couples, and it's exacerbated by a semi-racist homeowner and a bunch of hidden cameras laced throughout the entire cabin. Yeah. So, Zorianna, what was your take on The Rental?
I watched this movie by myself in the evening. And it was actually a great setting to do that because the mood was right. I was isolated. It was dark outside. So I really was in the mood to watch this. And it did not disappoint. I even have a French bulldog like they have one in the film. So my little Frenchie was next to me while I was watching this. I thought it was great. It started off as, this couple. So it's got this whole Virginia Woolf, Edward Albee thing going on, a little bit of Fatal Attraction maybe, where it's this dynamic between these two couples. And frankly, I wish I'd see there was more of that though. And the movie does devolve into being a slasher film, but you kind of think that was probably done more for commercial reasons than anything else. But that dynamic of what's happening between them and the secrets that exist between their own lives and what happens when two of them go to bed, but two of them are awake and they take some ecstasy and they drink too much. And, things happen when you're isolated, far away in the woods. So that was really great. The slasher part did surprise me a little bit because I didn't know it was going to go full force slasher. I mean, I was unprepared for some of the sudden moves that were being made, but also that just made it all the more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, I'm not a big horror guy. I don't go out of my way to see slasher films or horror films. And I would probably categorize this more on the thriller level than necessarily a slasher. Because there's, the jump scares feel natural and,
yes.
But what did intrigue me, and the main reason I wanted to see it was because of Bobby LeBear, who reviewed it for us. He just sold it very well. But what I loved about it was just that dynamic between the two couples, Alison Brie, Dan Stevens, and then Jeremy Allen White and Sheila Vand, and they, it's like their conflicts within each other, and the road that they go down in terms of what happens to them, what happens, the interweaving relationship, for the lack of a better word, and then how they deal with the racist homeowner. You realize that all of this. You're watching this relationship, these two relationships fall apart, but you realize, well, this has nothing to do with the slasher part.
Nothing at all.
I mean, the hidden cameras and stuff kind of propel things.
Yes.
But the problems that these two couples have were made up all on their own, and in a way, maybe their ultimate demise was their own doing.
You mean like if they never had the shower thing happen, no one would have ended up dead? Is that what you're saying?
No, but I think, it's kind of weird, but in a way, maybe what they got, they deserved, even though the two were mutually exclusive of each other.
Yes.
It's, I think that, to me, what I appreciate, I tend to give higher scores to movies when they do something different, do something new. Do something unexpected, and I think The Rental does that. And I think people will question whether that worked or not, or whether they like that. I've seen people who've talked about it say that this disconnect was a problem for them, and to me, it was kind of a cool part of the film.
Yeah, I do think that James Franco, who co-wrote and directed this film, he got into something great. I mean, the dynamic was there. And I know I mentioned previously, I would have liked it to have gone deeper, but instead it started to play a little bit more for Slash. But I do think he really, that's the part that once you're reeled in with this dynamic, you're in, and there's no going out. You're all of a sudden trapped in there right alongside with them. And of course you're like, well, what's going to happen to that dog? They weren't supposed to bring the dog, but they brought the dog. Uh-oh, something's going to happen. Oh, this guy's going to bring over the telescope. He's racist. He's suspicious. Something's going to happen. You just know the tension is just so palpable. Like, stuff's going to go down. So it's just a matter of kind of bracing yourself and going along for that ride. And I also like that James Franco didn't put himself in the film. He's not in any cameo. He didn't cast himself. He focused solely on.
Actually, Dave.
I'm sorry. Did I say James?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Dave.
See, and you know what? I'm just gonna say something to the fact that I just said that. I think Dave Franco inevitably always gets compared to James Franco. He's the younger brother. He's James is the successful one. He's the little guy that is in his brother's films. But now I do think people will say this is Dave Franco's film. He is the brother of James Franco. I think he's kind of going into first position as to what his talents are, and it's filmmaking. It's clear that he understands character development, that he actually did a smart job for his first outing to be in a setting that's just a house, not multiple locations. It was very simple, very well done, very tasteful, if you can call a slasher film tasteful, but well done. And I think that's the brother to watch at the moment.
Yeah. So without getting into any detail, what was your feeling about the ending, like the very ending? The
conclusion, the conclusion that happened later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where it made me go, well, what's the motivation? That's where it just became, in slasher films, characters don't have necessarily any motivation other than to kill just because. And I sort of felt that I was just kind of bummed that it ended on a typical note as opposed to something more. But I'm going to give Dave Franco a pass on that because this is his first outing. So again, probably had to strike a balance between finding his own voice and being original and conforming a little bit to a genre that expects certain things to happen and will be making money in the end. Distributor.
I mean, it should be clear that the ending was not a mistake. It was not there by accident. It was intentional.
Yes.
It was in the story, and I'm pretty sure it was shot the way it was intended. The question is, does it work? And I am kind of on the fence about that in this. Well, yeah, I mean, I've always had issues with films that basically give an ending that is not connected to everything we've seen up to that point.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like a waste. And one example is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. As much as I like the movie, there was no real sense that the ending really had anything to do with the scenes before it.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that kind of bothered me about that movie, which I didn't give as higher rating as other people did. In this case, I'm kind of okay with it. I mean, it's like there was a level, once I accepted what was happening, I was fine with it. But yeah, you do want to feel like at the end, you didn't just waste the first hour.
Yeah, it's definitely something that still sits with you and still makes you sit on the fence over it. And to have a discussion with other people who've seen it is, I think, where people are going to find their they're going to find their joy in debating this film and talking about that and discussing the ending.
Yeah, and ultimately that's what you really want out of your film, is to have people talk about it and want to see it again.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so recommendation?
Oh, it's a recommendation. And if your Airbnb plans didn't pan out this summer due to COVID, consider yourself lucky, because
I know. I stayed in a few and I'm like, now I'm rethinking, do I ever want to stay in one ever again?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
I say yes, recommend.
All right. I recommend as well. I'm Alan Ning. I'm with Zorianna Kit, and this is the Film Threat Review Show.